Welcome. This is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting school district business. It is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in agenda item remarks from the public. And we have the roll. Mrs. Doshori.
Yep.
Mr. Gilroy. Here. Mr. Van Kowski. Here. Or Kokowski. Myself. Yes. Mr. Thorson. Here. We all stand and join us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 3 is approval of the agenda and the agenda items. Is there a motion?
Mr. Gilroy, before you ask for a motion, I understand that there are some amendments. I'll just talk real loud. It's my understanding that we are amending the agenda tonight to add a new section 8. And then making section 8 announcement of board meetings number 9, executive session number 10, adjournment at number 11. The new number 8 will be what's currently listed under section 5H will now become A, and I will become B. So we're asking for those changes that you propose to the agenda. It's removing under new business the last two items, creating a new section 8 for them.
Okay.
And then also one last thing, under executive session, removing item A.
And then renumbering.
And then B becomes A, C becomes B.
Is there a motion to accept the agenda?
I motion to approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
I second.
I would like to add an item to new business, discussion of policy on legal fees.
Discussion, I'm sorry. Of policy and legal fees. Go on legal fees.
So that would be item H.
And that'll be the new page.
Discussion of policy on legal.
Yeah. Policy and legal fees. Just for housekeeping, work session at the top of the agenda gets deleted because there really isn't such a thing as work sessions. Any other discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Thorson?
Yes.
Dr. Phelps?
Yes.
Mrs. Dotori?
Yes.
Mr. Kokowski?
Yes.
Mr. Gilroy?
Yes. Members of the public, please note all persons wishing to address the board have a 5-minute limitation. Please state your name, address, topic. We have a number of people up front. Anybody in the back? Just out of curiosity. We'll start with this man in the back. We have a mic up here. If you'd like to come up.
I'm Debbie Skillen. I live on Legend Creek Drive, and I have some questions about open enrollment. I've been doing a lot of reading, and talking to people in other school systems who also have open enrollment, and I'm wondering what the objection is to open enrollment if it's bringing money into the school. Because I understand that it's $5,000 some per student. And I'm wondering what the alternative would be if open enrollment were discontinued, and then if that would mean more school levies would have to be passed, or what's going to happen because A good school, a strongly financial school supported, is good for our real estate values. So, can anyone explain to me why open enrollment is being considered to be canceled?
Okay, the open enrollment is reviewed every year. We're in the process of reviewing it again, and there are a number of alternatives that are available that we're researching. You have open enrollment in the state, you've got open enrollment where it might just be contiguous, you can have a tuition plan, you can have a combination of an open enrollment with a tuition plan. There are a number of things that we're reviewing at this time. It gets reviewed every year. This just happens to be a little hotter year for review.
So, is there any advantage to discontinuing it? I know that there's a benefit of having that additional money. So I'm trying to understand why it would be discontinued. Because I just learned yesterday that Newberry and Burton are likely to merge, and a new school will be built in Burton to accommodate both of those systems. Because Newberry is losing money. Some of their kids are coming here, in fact. And both of the schools are old and need to merge in order to be financially viable.
The last thing I saw was there was, actually received something in the mail. Supposedly there's a hearing February 18th discussing the proposed consolidation. So I don't know any of the specifics as far as what is or isn't. I don't know if anybody's agreed to build a new building. Maybe it's subject of discussion. So we started open enrollment many years ago as a tool that was started by the state. We did not invent it. To try to help stabilize some of our finances. Our finances are stabilized. But again, every year we go through the review, and we are continuing to go through the review as we speak. So we don't have an answer tonight. We will be making a suggestion by the superintendent because we've been discussing conversations about open enrollment. And the class size, the grade size is something that can be addressed, and is going to be addressed tonight, as a matter of fact. And so the grade size is going to be, the suggestion is to roll it back 10 people like it used to be. That is going to come up a little bit later, and I'm probably getting a little ahead of myself. There will be more information coming as we get it and do a more complete study. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
We had a half an hour to get people.
Well, this is directly addressing your concern. May I be recognized? Thank you. The stabilization of our finances that Michael talks about depend upon open enrollment. Without open enrollment for 5 years, in fact, less than 5 years, we have to go to the health department. So, just to put it in context, we are in fact in the financial shape of the district. Part of it is open enrollment. Other large parts of the fact that the teachers have gone for 2 years without any grades.
I wouldn't want to be done. Thank you.
Anybody here?
My name is Daniel Ketch, K-I-E-C. I live in Chesterland, Ohio, and I too am speaking on open enrollment. Open enrollment, at least right now, seems to be a poisonous word here. It's causing quite a commotion in this community, and it brings up the question, is this simply a seemingly simple enough policy being reviewed, or is it something more? I guess if you were to listen to board meetings for the most part, it would seem that most of Chesterland is up in arms about it. Hanging flags, protesting, demonstrating, and marching up and down 306, making the very fabric of our very small town around. But it seems now that the truth couldn't be farther away. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for freedom of speech, and I love the ability to stand up and talk in front of everyone. But let's not forget that freedom should be equally applied to everyone. After coming to a few meetings, I've picked up on a thing or two. Sure, there are plenty of people here, but not everyone seems to talk. I mean, everyone can, but when you start looking at who's here and who talks, the demographics seem to get a little bit fuzzy. Quite a bit of these individuals present are, in fact, teachers and other faculty. And from those who have voiced their opinion, most are for open enrollment. But the fact remains that right here are their bosses. And although I have not worked very long, it's generally not a good idea to contradict your bosses if you want to keep your job. But that's not all. There are also a good deal of parents in the audience too. But let's also dissect this group as well. There are those who are for and against, but it would be seemingly hard to tell. Why? Well, because parents who are here and who are against open enrollment are very, very passionate for their cause. And since they live here and they are so close, it's very easy for them to come here and be passionate and voice their opinions and be recognized by the Board of Education. Now, I'm not saying that parents in Chesterland who are for open enrollment staying aren't passionate as well. Everyone's passionate. But when it doesn't directly affect your kid being able to come here, you tend not to stand up and face a group of people who oppose you. And the parents whose kids it would directly affect, well, most of them would have to drive 45 minutes to stand up against the same group of people opposing them and not necessarily thinking very highly. So I guess it would seem that there is quite an intimidation factor to speak up for open enrollment and for keeping open enrollment. Or at least there was. Hello, like I said before, my name is Daniel Ketch, and I'd like to introduce myself as I represent a fairly large percentage of the entire student body in this school district. We as a group have decided that since these public meetings directly impact the rest of our lives, our opinions should be heard and valued, whether they're wanted or not. We are not here for extra credit. We are not here for fun. We are here because we value our educations, and we have no problem saying that. We don't think that losing 250 friends is progressive, and we don't think losing teachers will increase our success. In fact, we know it won't. And if you're going to use class size as an argument against open enrollment, we have very small classes, and we have many spots available. So I'd argue increasing class sizes. To those who are parents of students against open enrollment, I'd like everyone, not just them, but everyone to remember that open enrollment affects all of the students at West Geauga. If we lose open enrollment, we lose many very qualified educators. But not only that, we lose honors programs and AP programs that help us as students of West Geauga stand out when we apply to college. In my personal and humble opinion, it is for the betterment of this school district to keep open enrollment and to allow our school to stay as strong as it is. I don't say that I'm against opposition. I fully welcome opposition. And I'm glad that so many people here are passionate and willing to stand up for their cause. But as a student of West Geauga who values his education, I'm standing up for mine and my friends. And that is why I'm for open enrollment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we have every student take their 5 minutes, since we generally have 30 minutes, we're going to see if there's other subjects that need to be touched, and I'm going to jump around a little bit, but I am going to comment now just one thing. There's two different kinds of open enrollment. What's been out there is, gee, we lose open enrollment, we're going to lose teachers. No, we have $9 million in banks. So that's not necessarily true. Someday, somewhere, maybe, we don't know. We're also thinking and looking at other opportunities out there, like working on an alumni, working on a better alumni group, potential scholarships. There are other aspects that are out there that are all part of the big review process. But if open enrollment, quote, changes, there are different flavors of it. It's not at all or nothing. And I think, unfortunately, it gets presented, gee, if open enrollment goes away, here's all of the bad things that are going to happen. And that's not a fair presentation to put out to the community, to children, or whatever. That's why we review it. There's lots of different other areas to it. I will leave it at that. In the back, yes, sir.
helping out with Russell. Ben, was it? Dan. Great speech. I value you guys coming and saying your speeches and this and that. Until you have a family, buy a house, work 60 hours a week, worry about putting food on the table, paying your taxes, because you moved out here, first of all, because you wanted to be in a good school district. Okay? Then you can come talk to us about life. Right? You have all the freedom in the world. Why? Because your parents are giving it to you. We are giving it to you. There's kids your age dying for your freedom. All right?
We need to hit adjustable, please.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm glad these kids come and talk. Okay? But until you get to walk in our shoes about open enrollment and taxes. Now the board, I think you're missing the whole point of it. It's not about we don't want these kids or this or that. The reason I moved to West Geauga 17 years ago was for my kids to go to West Geauga school. Okay? We are not making people buy houses out here, invest in their community, grow Chesterland, grow Russell. If they can stay wherever they are and send their kids, that's the whole point of it. It's not about the money issue or letting teachers go or losing this or that. It's like, I looked up on Zillow before I came here, there's 100 houses in Chesterland, 63 in Russell for sale. Okay, these people are passionate about sending their kids to West Geauga because they love West Geauga now. You know what? Buy a house. Move out here. Support the community. This way our community grows, our area grows, and then everybody wants to come to West Geauga. Like everybody wants to go to Schmidt Falls. Why do they want to go to Schmidt Falls? The water is better? No. Their school is better. Their school district. That's all you hear. School, their school, their school. We need to make our school better, and people need to move here to go to this school. Thank you. Thank you.
Are all hands for open enrollment? Okay, this gentleman here is different.
My name is Mark Paskowski. I live in Novelty. And I have 5-year-old twins who we're going to be the first time we're signing up for the West Geauga School District. They're signing up for kindergarten, which is due this past Friday. And I noticed, which I didn't prepare ahead of time for this, but for kindergarten, for all-day kindergarten, it is $2,800 for each child. So for our family, it's $5,600 for our kids to go to all-day kindergarten. In this economy, if when you have a good $50,000 or $60,000 a year job, that's the equivalent of basically 2 months of take-home pay to pay for our children to go to kindergarten. From what I understand in the past, this has been an issue with some parents, but it's never actually been brought to a vote. If I'm wrong, correct me. I understand that it's getting close to that point when it could possibly be this year, where the board members are going to decide whether or not we can eliminate that cost for all-day kindergarten. I know for a family like myself, and for many other families that have kindergarten-age students, $2,800 or $5,600 makes a heck of a lot of difference to us. I'm not completely educated on the financial situation that the district is in, but if it is affordable, if it's doable, that's something I really hope that you guys strongly consider. Could you update me on that situation?
Jeff, I think at our last meeting, we've got that in the superintendent's report. Can we talk about that a little later?
And I'm sorry, I just signed my kids up for kindergarten on Friday, so I was just made aware of the meeting today. So hopefully I'm here for many, many weeks to come.
Welcome. He's going to address that. Dr. Frost.
My only one comment. As a parent and over the years hearing that policy, I always thought the I always thought the schools would pay for that, but just recently I've had 2 emails from parents who say they don't want that. They want their child to have to be kindergarten, and they would really be upset if we made it all day kindergarten. So it was eye-opening to me, because I'm thinking like you are, and this would make sense. But we have sometimes the difficult challenge of how many people out there don't want that. And that's one thing we have to try to hear. But I've had 2 emails saying they want that, and it surprises them, because they think their kids are too young to do all the kindergarten and they're not ready for it. So if we force everybody to do all the kindergarten and we made it a policy, they're going to be in the opposite position. So I just throw that out, not to say either way, but just that there's always 2.
There are always, my guess is, not positive, but my guess is, overwhelming majority would be in favor of that. There's a lot of two-family incomes that would help us out.
Jeff, when we get the report, are you going to be addressing half and full and both? My proposal so far is not to go to all day. That's what we're going to do in my presentation.
Well, and I think as any one of us, we can't look at it as a financial, and that's hard sometimes to absorb. We have to look at what's the best interest of the students. In reality, that's wonderful to try to help parents out and do it, but we have to look at what's best for all the students, not just one. So I don't know who will give a presentation later, but again, it can't be money driven, it has to be educational driven.
And I think I look at that side as well, and I think it would be a win-win for everybody, for the parents and for the students. Because just the transition of going on the bus, going to kindergarten, getting back on the bus, going to, if we have babysitters or daycare, whatever the situation might be. There's a lot of transition going on in that one day. And I think everybody would want to call it.
Thank you. Everybody in the front, second row, want to raise your hand? Right here.
Hi, my name is Alexandra Monaco. I live on Rockhaven Road in Munson, Ohio. And I am addressing both the life of a student at WestGBrd High School as well as open enrollment in one fell swoop. Open enrollment to many is just numbers and statistics, but to the students that actually walk the halls every day, this is a debate on so much more. To some people, this is a debate on whether or not they get to keep their best friends. To others, this is about property taxes. To some, it's about diversity, but to me, like I said, it's a lot more than that. As some of you may know, I started a Facebook group this past week for the students that support keeping open enrollment. This, originally, was going to be used to communicate who was going to upcoming school board meetings. The day after I created the group, I woke up, went onto Facebook, and found that 190 students had joined that page. 190 students, all 100 of them, or all 100% different, but all 190 came together to stand up for what we believe in. Since that page has been created, people have been posting their ideas to what they want to say, what points should be made, and in what manner things should be said. This Facebook page is much like the halls of WestGBrd High School and the other schools in the district. Yes, all 4 years in the high school, I have learned different subjects of math, different types of sentences in English, what happened in 1980 in history, and what chemicals should be mixed in science. However, nothing can compare to what I've taken away from the students that surround me. From my peers, I've learned many different things. To name a few, I've learned how to work with many different types of people in a group setting. I've learned how to handle a bully. I've learned how to detect that someone may have a lot more going on in their life than meets the eye. I've learned how to be comfortable in my own skin. I've learned that the people you've been friends with forever may not always be there for you. I've learned that being different is okay, and I've learned that in this world, you cannot say you know someone until you walk a mile in their shoes. 10, even 20 years from now, it won't matter what I learned in biology class sophomore year. What I'll remember most from high school is the people in my grade and school that taught me. The students specifically. Good or bad, students learn from each other. If 190 students can come together to think of different ways in which they can voice their opinion, imagine what an entire school filled with kids from all over the area can do to better each other's education. And for that, I would like to say I, among many of the students here tonight, support open enrollment. Thank you.
Crawford, and I live in Rolling Hills. I had no intentions of speaking during actually being at this meeting until my son told me about it today, so I'm very thankful that I'm here. And to add to your point, as a passionate parent about open enrollment, I would like to ask the gentleman who came up here and is so against it to maybe think of something like circumstances surrounding open enrollment. And I'm going to share my story, and I don't think it's all that unique, depending on why these people are here. First and foremost, I've been a realtor for 23 years, and I do know that real estate values do increase as a result of good schools. So you're in this weird position of having all the kids here, increasing the income, allowing all these amazing programs, which does attract more people to Geauga County and to West Geauga schools. In of that in itself, that's a benefit to open enrollment. You may see properties vacant and available for sale, but that doesn't really have anything to do with open enrollment. So I just really believe that A, from a real estate perspective, it's a win. That's my opinion. B, circumstances surrounding open enrollment. I went to this school here, I went to this high school here, and I lived around the country for 17 years, and I came back from California. And I lived in my parents' home for a year and a half in Munson Township, which brought my son to this school, where I went to school. And I will tell you, the 5,000 student Pleasanton school system that we were in the high school, 5,000 kids in the high school. My child didn't have a chance. We came here to a tiny community. He fell in love with it. Now, I had to leave this area because of my relationship. I'm a single parent. I was not the provider. I wasn't buying a home here. I couldn't. So I had to go to a different location. But I begged this staff to let my son stay here. He came here in 7th grade, and it was his 7th school. Born in Vegas, went to Denver, moved to California, and now came here to West G. This is a lifetime of opportunity for him. He has friends. He has a football team. He's got a community that is so tight. I can't, if my son was banned from the school because of open enrollment, I'd be crushed, and I know that he would too. So, as a parent being passionate about this, I'm very passionate about this, and I want to be far more involved, and I'm so glad Dr. Phelps is on this board. And I just want to, I want to encourage other parents that are out of district, if you are here, get them to say something. Why are you in West G? And why do you want to stay in West G? Because maybe if you understand that perspective, it won't seem like such a bad thing. Still getting $5,000 for my son to be here. I may not be writing a check for taxes here, but I am supporting this school in any way, shape that I can. That's all I have to say.
I'm not here to speak about open enrollment directly. I just wanted Supt 11481 Chapin Street. I just wanted to talk about the $9 million that you referred to tonight, and also a couple of other times. And also, Mr. Kilroy, since you made a comment about last meeting missing my graphs, I have some graphs here to look at. And if you don't mind, Mr. Kish can project it up on the screen. The $9 million.
Is that okay?
You know, $9 million sounds like an awful lot of money. I mean, if I had another $9 million, I think I could live off the interest of it. And I think most of us could. To LeBron, it's probably, not such a big deal. So what is it about $9 million? I mean, it's all in your perspective, kind of, isn't it? Whether it's a lot of money or not. So I was trying to think of a way that you can put the money into perspective for a particular school district. And if you look at the graph that's at the top left there, it's a little hard to see because of the lights. But $9 million to Ledgemont, for instance, would be a big deal since their whole budget is $6.7 million. On the other hand, for Orange, whose budget is $49.6 million, it's not as big a deal. So how do you compare one district to another as far as what $9 million really means? So if we just take a look at that unreserved fund balance, which comes off the 5-year forecast, and we divide it by the total expenditures, that gives you some kind of idea how long that reserve would last. So I plotted up here for Orange and for Ledgemont how many months their reserve would last. And that dotted line across there represents 1 month. Now, I don't know what the right number is, but I just suggest to you guys that maybe this is a way to think about what the right number might be. Because 1 month of reserve means that if for some reason you don't get the income that you expect, you're probably going to have to borrow money to make payroll, like happened here about 10 years ago. That's not a great position to be in. So if 1 month is not the right number, but orange at 8 months may be too high, what is the right number? And I would just suggest that maybe Mr. Wilson, with all of his experience in working in Mentor and other places, may help to come up with that kind of number. If you go to the plot that's on the top right-hand side, you'll see that Mentors actually is approaching orange a few years ago, but now they are headed downwards. And so at some point they're going to have to get additional money into the district. Now I realize that these are decisions that the board makes, not the treasurer, but I'm just suggesting that maybe the treasurer can help the board come up with what a reasonable number is. So if you take a look at the bottom left, you'll see where WestG is versus both Mentor, Orange, and Ledgemont. And you can see that our $9 million right now corresponds to about 4 to maybe 4.5 months. However, when we get out to 2018, the projection is that we'd be down to 1 month. So it's okay to spend some of that $9 million. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. I'm just saying maybe this is a way to look at how things may roll out going forward, and to be careful about not spending too much of the $9 million right now. The last plot that you have on the page that I gave you shows a whole bunch of the other districts, and I realize it's too busy, but you can see that some of the others, if you really want to track it down, where Chardon, Chagrin Falls, Kenston, and a number of the others fall in. And if you want the actual values, I'll be glad to email them to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gus Azusias. I live on Caves Road, Chesterland, Ohio. I came here on behalf of the WestGB football team. I'd like to inquire as to what kind of ramifications the present in open enrollment did propose specifically from athletics, such as would there be technical increase in athletic fees or limitations on sports fee, like just wondering.
Good question. It's all part of the big review. And
Worst case scenario.
it's hard to give you a worst case scenario because there are different avenues. To be honest, for example, there's an enormous difference between the all-state open enrollment and contiguous. And so, well, people have bantered numbers, we lose $1 million or whatever the number is. Not true. If you had contiguous, there's 300,000 or 400,000, whatever the number is right there. So it really is a balancing back and forth to see what you have. In the past, we've often took our general funds, buy some technology. We have funds in permanent improvements that are coming available. So while we're trying to figure out what's going on, right now, we're fine, no cuts. You want to know the worst case? We're fine right now, no cuts. But we have to figure out going forward for the next few years, what's going on, and how to best plan for this. I wish I had a perfect answer for you. In the past, we had board meetings where it was, thank you very much for this question. We're trying to get more information as best we can. We haven't got to the point to be able to address that with specificity that you know. I'm sorry, but we're getting there. Yes, Jackie.
I think it's very important that you know this because relevant to open enrollment, I'm part of policy in Mr. Palmer. There are some things that are going to be changing with athletics regardless of open enrollment, whether it stays or goes. So I don't want you to see in the next couple of months some changes happening and think that it was a reflection of what did or didn't happen in open enrollment. These were discussions that are going on now before we even made a decision. We need to have a little bit more collaboration in the athletics department, and we may be taking on some club sports, and we have to do a full athletic evaluation. So that's happening regardless.
Jim, do you hear an echo?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Is that just Jackie's or is it everybody?
It's just Jackie's. We're not sure why.
Sorry, Jackie.
It sounds pretty cool.
Good afternoon, John. Okay.
Well, I make a couple of closing remarks. Sure. I would just like to encourage everyone to think about, just specifically from an athletic standpoint for now, if open enrollment was to close, what would happen to some of these kids? Because I know my friend Mike over here, who I see in the waiver room every day, I talk to him every day. If someone like him were to leave the district, it would be detrimental to the football team. I think it's safe to say Mike is expected to get a good amount of varsity football time this year, so seeing someone like him leave, to me, just doesn't seem right, because I know, talking to Mike, he likes the football team, he loves playing the sport. Most part, I know that he likes the school, he shows up to every workout. He's a dedicated individual, and seeing someone that is dedicated like that, deprived of the ability to play for the school, just seems to be morally wrong.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am, all the way in the back. We're going to do two more, and I'm going to have to call a little longer than our half an hour, but I'm trying to have more interaction.
Hi, I'm Jeannie Jefferson. I live in Chesterland. I spoke on the last time because I have a child that goes to WestGBrd. He is in 6th grade, but I wanted to kind of emphasize on the athletic department type things. What happens to those kids that I know in 7th grade tried out for basketball? Oh, and they didn't make it, but yet they live in the school district. Their parents live in Chesterland or Russell, but other kids out of district made the team. Is that fair to these kids that parents came here to be on that team? No, in my opinion. This is just my opinion. As the nice lady that came up about her child that has to be in here, I love our 2 new board members. I think we have a great board. But these 2 new board members on this board were voted on by WestGBrd, Chesterland, and Russell people. We voted them on. So I really hope they listen to the parents that are against the open enrollment. I am against it. The open enrollment with the large classes affects my son. It hurts my son in the classrooms. I know that the young man said that there aren't big enough classes, that the classes aren't big enough. Maybe that's true in high school, but right now in the junior high, they're big. And I know language arts has double classrooms, and it does have 2 teachers. But when you stick a child in a classroom of 48 kids, it's hard on my son who wants to be just one-on-one. And that's my aspect of the academics. I don't have a problem against, open enrollment within the county, and I talked to Mr. Kilroyd about this. But when I come to this school system, when I move to this school system, so my family can have a better education, that's what I did. I moved. That was my choice. I moved from Newberry. I have tons of friends in Newberry still. Do you know how many parents hate our school system because so many Newberry kids come here and they lost so much money and now they have to join with Berkshire and they don't want to? It's a hard thing for me to have to sit and say, I'm sorry because I didn't do it. I didn't vote for open enrollment. But yet I have a lot of friends that say, but my kid's suffering now because you guys took open enrollment and took our kids away from our school system. I see that from their point. I see that from your points as kids wanting to keep your friends. Without a doubt, I would not want to lose any of my friends either, ever. But there's a saying, make new friends but keep the old. Sorry. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Joe Miller, Russell Township. I just have two questions. I'm not sure if you're able to answer this time or not, but if you can, I'd like you to get back to me on it. I was wondering how many of the students are from Russell Township? How many student residents from Russell Township? And of those students or the taxpayers of Russell Township, what percentage are they paying, Russell Township paying into the district? You have those numbers on the top of your head? I didn't think you did, but if you could, that's some numbers I'm looking for.
Percentage of children?
Percent, I want to know how many, what's the percentage of kids out of Russell Township coming in the district, and how many tax dollars are falling?
Jeff, can you make a note of that? Percentage of children and percentage of finances and pay-in? On that one, Jeff?
No, it's the 57 and 55 transfers.
No, Russell is part of our, actually part of us.
Oh, you want to
Right,
say
yeah,
that.
they're part of us.
Yes.
Tax dollars of the Russell residents pay,
Yes.
and the percentage of students that come from Russell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Wait. Did you speak last week? Yes. You did. I didn't know you were there. Sorry about that. Appreciate you speaking last time.
Hi, my name is Karen. Firstly, I'd like to thank the school board for allowing open enrollment to become what it is. An option for kids who want a better education than what is being provided in our district. Words cannot describe how grateful I am for this opportunity. I've had the best experiences as a West Geogga student in the past 2 years of my life. Not only the knowledge I've gained, but the friends I've made that have inspired me to be the best I can. I've grown and matured with these students, and it saddens me that we're viewed as numbers and money in the pockets of the district. We're living, breathing human beings with feelings and emotions, and deserve to be treated as so. We open enrollment students have been referred to as outsiders and have been ostracized and looked down upon by members of the community. This contrasts so much with how the students and faculty treat us, who have welcomed us with open arms and have valued our presence. They have claimed us as a part of the community, in addition that they are proud of the color. As I was leaving last week's board meeting, I was talking amongst friends about the open enrollment situation, and a man interjected, "If you want to go to our school, you need to pay our taxes." This action shows the true ugliness of the situation, and there is no way to justify acting up to the student. While we may not live in Chester or Russell Township, we do pay taxes, and much of our taxes come to the district, benefiting the local residents by keeping their taxes lower. A great advantage of open enrollment is the diversity, not only to the in-district students, but to the open enrollment students also. Meeting so many people of different ethnic backgrounds has been a fantastic learning experience for me, and I'm sure it has been for the other open enrollment students. The diversity in the school district also serves us well when we're adults and encounter people who may live on an entirely different spectrum than we do. In the words of Bell Hooks, dominator culture has tried to keep us all afraid, to make us choose safety instead of risk, sameness instead of diversity. Moving through that fear, finding out what connects us, reveling in our differences. This is the process that brings us closer, that gives us a world of shared values, of meaningful community. If open enrollment were to close, saying I would be devastated would be a major understatement. This program means more than just tax dollars. You're affecting the student body as a whole, including its performance. The student presence and remarks at these board meetings are not for extra credit. We're standing up for what we believe in. We'll not stand by idly while someone tries to take away these precious things. That is all I have to say.
I want to thank everybody. We've tried to be a little more interactive than in the past. Appreciate all the input on a variety of different subjects. We are going to go on to our next section. Usually allocate about a half an hour. Thank you very much for all that you've done there. Which takes us to Gene, we're going to tell you our new business section, which is section 5. Subject is titled point A, which is discussion of Alumni Association. Do we have anything further to discuss about the Alumni Association? I know we have repeat items from our last meeting. If there isn't any, fine. If not, we'll just go to the, anybody have anything on Alumni?
No, I just wondered about the, I thought they were trying to do a deadline on last Friday. Last week, they had said they were going to be making a decision on accepting by last Friday. This one, the alumni program. John, there's an about that.
Brenda has some information on that. Not working. Not working. Okay, Brenda has some information on that. Brenda would like to share that.
I was very curious about what Mr. Kilgore.
Come on up, Brenda.
I
Sorry.
have a pretty big voice. Usually my elementary principal voice is loud enough, but Mr. Kilroy had suggested that the company Harris Publication, Harris Connect, had some not so great things out on Google and Yahoo, so I spent some time investigating that, and there are indeed some items on both Yahoo and Google. In looking through each of those 56 items that were presented, they are all in regard to postcards that were sent to folks whose parents had died or a loved one had died, and it seemed to be more of an emotional take on that. I did investigate with the Better Business Bureau, and they have an A+ rating. In the last 3 years, they did have 61 complaints. I looked through those complaints, and they were closed. I also contacted Kendall Pease, the gentleman from the company, Harris Publication, and he said he would gladly answer any specific questions. In particular, I thought the thing that was more a reason to definitely feel comfortable with that company is they report all conversations that are had, which in the complaints they were listing that the salesperson or the person that was talking to them on the phone was rude. And Mr. Kendall assured me that at any time if there was any conversation where a parent called and complained to any school board member, he could pull that particular phone conversation and send you the link to it, and you could listen to it firsthand. So in going through all those things, I still think that trying to get an alumni database for a very reasonable cost, which this one is free, they would still be my recommendation to the board. They were able to extend the deadline until this coming Friday, because I did share with them the information that you had presented, and they were totally understood. They wanted that to be looked into. Okay?
Thank you very much. So we need to vote on. I think it's something that we should just do. Brenda, thank you very much. You got that.
So we give you the direction to do that.
They so they need to
So we don't have any concerns.
You're comfortable, Brenda, with going forward?
I really appreciated you bringing up those concerns, and I think that it seems still like the best bet for the amount of money, which is free.
Thank you.
Okay.
We'll go forward. Thank you. Item B was technology consent grades, which I think Nancy is all of yours.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, it's not right. I'm getting heckled on the walk now.
Who was heckling? Peanut
Mr. Russo.
Which peanut was heckling?
Well, I handed out information or included information in your board packet that went out, I believe, to board members last week. So I think the best way for us to go forward is I can address concerns, I can address some of your questions about the numbers. I would ask you to first take a look on the last page. We gave you an estimate on a very, very rough figure. Mr. Russo and I have spent some time together today talking about the $30,000 per building. It looks to be more accurate to say that would be around 50,000-ish, question mark, but that is in no way a state number. Right now we're collecting maps of every high school building with trouble spots and looking at those individually in a team of Mr. Russo, Ed Chandler, building principal, and myself. So that's the way that we're beginning to address that. So as numbers come into play and we are able to give you more specific numbers, I will provide those as we're working building by building. So I wanted to address that before I started answering any questions you might have. Yes.
50,000 versus the 120.
Yes. I might have to look for the okay. So I think the one thing that I would just want to reiterate to you and talk about the world's perfect audience, and no, it was not planned in any way by myself, but certainly I think when you look at a district kindergarten through 12, you have to look at arming your workforce, so to speak, our workforce, namely being an audience of our secondary level students that will be our first to become college and career ready. And so one of the things that a school district looks to do is to make sure that that college and career readiness is in their hands as soon as we can make it available. So not only do I want you to think about the PARCC testing, and obviously PARCC and online testing is coming right at our door, and we have to address that in the immediacy. But also beyond that, I mean, as you can tell by, I think, many of the comments tonight, I mean, these are the thinkers that we are producing that will represent West Geauga moving forward. And so part of our obligation as educators, when you create a strong district that produces the students at the level that we are producing them, one of the things that we have to truly get serious about is arming them with the technology that they will have to be charged with using as they move on to college and career, some of whom will do so next year. So I think, you know, how appropriate that we hear the voices that will be our representation as they move forward to college with immediacy tonight, because I do think it seems like it is a marriage in some ways to our recommendation. So the recommendation certainly with testing at its heart, but also with the idea of strong curricular and instructional goals for our students. But I can answer questions. I don't know. I can walk you through it. I can answer questions. What would you like me to do?
All right. Thank you for doing some more homework on it.
Sure.
Appreciate it. For those of you out there for the operations committee, I've been involved with technology one time to work for IBM, so I know that to be dangerous, as Mr. Russo testified to. Having said that, one of the things that I'm interested in, as we discuss such things as open enrollment, I think it's important while we're putting together still a more comprehensive plan, and I know there's probably going to be some more steps in this. What do we do to entice people to advertise our school district? We have a blue ribbon school, which is wonderful, high school. But I think that we have to be aware of things like, we get to alumni, for example, Benjamin, I believe it is, just got one-to-one throughout the entire school. Somebody left them a whole lot of money. That's part of having a better alumni or a good alumni, so whatever it is, try to be there at the right time for the opportunity. I understand there were some grants that became available, or were part of possibly Race to the Top. What did we or did we not do in that regard? But we were ahead of them. And I think that as we're advertising ourselves, we need to say such things as, we start them off right, we graduate for life. And I believe that if we have one-to-one at our elementary school also, it gives us something that we can put this spring out as advertising in the real estate sections out there that say, West G's a great place, come here, move here. And so I think that we need to be aware of both sides of it. I think we're very close to being able to, we can absolutely advertise our Blue Ribbon High School, and we need to have as much possible to advertise West Geography. So I'm recommending that, and I looked at what you have here, for example, your alternate A, which is the 76,000. And you have your option 2, I think it was, which was another 21,000. Another 21,000, which took your 43,000 up to 65,820, if I'm not mistaken. So if you had 76,000 for your initial plan, another $21,000 to get more high school Chromebooks and cards. And if you finished off the second grade, which is approximately $57,000, for $155,000, you can help us to meet some of the park requirements, get some things on order, work on something that we can do to advertise our school district so we can get out into the papers and into real estate positions now, because people will be looking in springtime where to move to, closing in the summer, and trying to be here in time. And so I think that we might have missed a little bit of what more to do at the elementary. And having been very involved at the Apples down there, I believe we need, my suggestion to the board, that we, later on in finance, we're going to make some resolutions to discuss it right there. And then when you come back to us, whatever, the sooner the better, on some of these other things, we also have our fiscal year changes. I think it's July 31, so that July 1, so that we're then starting a new financial fiscal year. We can check our PI, see what we have there to possibly jumpstart it even further. We had some sections in here about some technology for the staff or whatever, to make sure that we figure out which one we want to do. I did call Dell, 5530 is obsolete.
Right.
So we need to have.
It's the 5540, it's $850, we just verified that. But if I could just offer one thing, and then, you know, go ahead, Jackie, I want to answer your question
before you get to that.
Okay.
Third grade, they do park next year, correct? So that's
Yes.
our current second graders right now.
Yes.
When is that test in third grade?
Well, they will take a fall inundation of that, and then they would take spring testing. So it would be the typical park that I laid out for you with the March PBA and then the May EOY.
Okay. So our current second graders that will be third graders next year have a test in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
And they have very little contact with iPads right now. So what are we doing to prepare these second graders if they don't have one-to-one to be ready for fall?
Well, currently second grade has a grade level iPad card. So I would suggest to you that they have availability, that they have regular usage of iPads. What they do not have regular usage of is keyboards. We are in dire need of keyboards, which is why that is my first line item. We have to get them practicing with those. I would say that that is one of the most grave concerns. And I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think our elementary building principals would tell you the same thing, is that there's concern with just general keyboarding skill, as well as the idea of taking an online test, which will be new practice for that grade level, as well as all of our grade levels through 12th grade. So yes, I think that's something that we have to address immediately.
So I guess my question is, I would love to have one, of course, but would it make more sense right now as we're trying to figure out our long-range plan of technology? Your keyboards that you have on here are targeted for which groups?
For iPads, for the elementary schools,
But
because
for
that
all
would be
of
the
them,
method
or
they
just
take.
because when you were presenting this the other day, you were saying that they were trying to get one grade level.
It would be one grade level with enough carryover that would not, by using them at a grade level, stop it short, meaning that there would be enough for class sets moving forward in each building.
So second grade could use those keyboards right now to start preparing.
Yes. The other piece of the puzzle, and I mean, one-to-one is how we start. Absolutely. There is, one-to-one has a myriad of benefits. I would never argue against it. I would never argue that idea. I would reiterate, as I did the last time, and I won't go on and on, but I would reiterate to you, the need is not an elementary. It is not. I could never justify that. I agree with Mr. Kilroy that one-to-one has many benefits. But in terms of with immediacy for not only college and career readiness for our children, but also with work testing, that is not our need right now. Can it be involved in our plan moving forward? I don't think it can be. I think it can be, certainly, but I just cannot ethically feel like I can offer you a recommendation with that, and it's hard. I would not do that.
Okay, but you have, my question to you is this. You have in here numbers for the high school, you have in here numbers for the middle school, right? You have a second option to get more for the high school, which I've just included. How much more do you think you need to have the middle school and the high school be a little better prepared? I'd ask you to give me a good, better, best. Which one of your, where's my good, better, best?
Good is option one, meaning good makes us be able to maintain testing.
So that's 76,000 equals good.
This first page, the first thing that I laid out to you would be good. It would provide us with keyboards at the elementary, and it provides us with Chromebook cards, at both the high school and middle school, so we could go forward with testing. Better is better capacity, so we would increase our capacity to roughly, I believe it's like 55%. Again, we're running at a capacity of 84% at the elementary school buildings right now in terms of one-to-one if you look at device-to-student ratio. Right now, we're running at 21% at the high school. We're running roughly at 24% at the middle school. So that would increase Chromebook carts, and better and good increases us to, I believe, roughly 40, better to 60. I mean, that's what we want, I suppose.
How many Chromebook carts do you need at the high school and the middle school to get to that next, to get to the better?
To get to better?
Yeah.
So if you look on page 2, it's the original plan, the 4 plus 2 more. So it would be increased to 6 at the high school. And it would be status quo at the middle school, because we're running a little better number at the middle school.
So that's adding the $21,000 that I just talked about, right?
The $21,000 you're talking about is coming from where?
Your original plan, which says original plan plus 2 Chromebook cards is 65 equals correct? Which is your 43 from your original, adding 2 more at 21,000 makes 65, correct?
Sorry, standing is difficult, and I'm working on different pieces of my puzzle, pardon me. Thank you, sorry. Approaching in your space. So if you're looking at my original, so when you're talking about the keyboards, okay? Go ahead.
I got your original.
Yes.
You got your high school 4 cards, middle school 2 cards, you got keyboards, you added up to 76,000. Now, option 2 is add a couple more Chromebook cards somewhere, I don't know if it's the high school or the middle school, but it's an extra 21,000, takes that portion up to 65,000, correct?
Yes.
That's just for the high school, right? So if you did that, and if you got 2 more Chromebook cards for the middle school, right, Jim? So if we got 2 more, but if we got 2 more cards there, right, that'd be another 21,940. You'd be going past what we call good on your way to best by getting to the next level of technology for your high school, your next level of technology for your middle school, and if you took care of the second grade, as I've suggested, you would have then an additional 21,000. You'd have about $177,000 worth of technology that needs to be spent for this, and we have ample funds in our reserves right now, and also going into the next year. So my suggestion is that if we have to keep moving along to get to the final part, because, for example, I want to know, we have computers in the libraries. Where is that in here for replacement?
Replacement absolutely is an issue.
Is it in here?
Absolutely not. This is testing numbers.
Okay,
so
we have the whole issue of everything else that still needs to be done. And I think that right now we have a need to address some of the testing issues. We have the finances to address the testing issues, the keyboarding issue, and actually to start to finish off a one-to-one at our elementary levels so that we have something else to advertise our district about that will help to differentiate ourselves when unfortunately we got other districts saying, we already got it, 1-to-1, lucky or whatever, they got it. That we have the finances to do it, and I think that sorry.
We did talk to 1-to-1. So typically, what I talked about the time we met as a board, when you look at 1-to-1, many grow 1-to-1 up. We have started growing 1-to-1 down. If you look at our academic need, if you look at the data from our report card, our greatest academic need currently is in 6th grade. So my recommendation would be, if you look to go the next step to 1-to-1, the natural progression would take from 5th grade to 6th grade. You go to Chromebook in 6th grade as 1-to-1. It serves dual purposes. Number one, it grows our 1-to-1 numbers, which is definitely your interest. I understand, Mr. Kilroy. But more than that, it also takes care of another part, testing year. It's just hard to defend going 1-to-1 at 2nd grade when it's not a testing year. And we are already running at such an enormously high capacity in elementary. So if you would want to go forward in 1-to-1, as a district, for planning purposes, it would make sense to grow it up.
So Jim, 1-to-1 at the 6th grade to get there is how many cards?
1 in 6th grade. 5.
5 cards. So you have what, 2 now?
There's 1 in 6th grade. There's 3 split between 7th and 8th grade. So a total of 4 right now.
So we have 3 being split between 7th and 8th. He needs 5 more. Those are running $10,000, $55,000. Still.
I don't want to throw another caveat in, but I also want everybody to think about this. Again, I just feel like I have a duty to tell you these things. So I don't mean to be a contrarian. I just want you to feel armed with knowledge. And then the cards will fall where they may, but you'll be armed with the knowledge that I have, and then I will feel better. I'll be able to sleep tonight. So if you look at our budget right now, we have in our technology budget for funding $27,352.91. That's what we have left in our technology budget, for fiscal year 14. So currently, that is all we have to spend technically. I mean, I understand that you have the power to move funds, but I want you to understand where we have historically been and how we have historically spent money, because it will impact a lot of decisions that you as a board will have to make moving forward. Currently, next year and for the next 5-year forecast, the next number of years in the 5-year forecast, we have budgeted $150,000 for technology. The extra funds for the roofing project, and I don't want to misspeak, Mr. Russo, and I know that if I do, you will be the first one to let me know that I have them. That is at the end of that 5-year, we have earmarked $100,000, and Mr. Russo will be sure to tell you that it is only $100,000, and he is gritty about the $100,000, but that is the money that has been earmarked for technology. And so part of your decisions and what you will have to make decisions about will be how to move funds. And I don't know, so in other words, I wouldn't want you just to spend my whole list. I think that what we have to do is with great forethought and with really thinking through replacement and all of the things that Michael knows that has to be a part of it because of his experience and knowledge, that we have to really be thoughtful in moving forward. It should be a decision that should be tempered with future thought.
Nancy, what are we dealing with in additional costs? I know there's additional costs we have, for instance, there are dead spots in the buildings that will be an expense. I'm assuming these computers, they come with some software. What do they come with? What do we have to buy? Because obviously, if you get a computer and it's totally useless without software, so we're going to have to buy software. Adobe Creative Suite, for instance, if people are going to use that in high school, lease that, it's a pretty hefty fee. Because that, I'm sure the education cost is much less than I would pay. But every bit of software that we buy to make the machines useful is going to cost additional. So what are we talking about there? Do we have like a norm of spending, something we extrapolate from?
Well, it depends. I mean, right now, one of the movements going forward is certainly to utilize iPads in a way that is much more embedded in curriculum and instruction. And so with that comes additional cost of apps that we find successful. Keyboards obviously are an additional cost that maybe we hadn't thought about when we went towards one-to-one. So I mean, there are definitely going to be additional costs that we have to think through as we move forward. If we move more towards Chromebooks, I mean, that's sort of the beauty of Chromebooks versus getting a laptop. Chromebooks come without a ton of extra expense and utilization in terms of a secondary level. Not to talk about it like you're not here, but I mean, you would use them for research. You would use them in terms of looking at text and some of the Common Core rigorous brands. I mean, you'd use the Chromebooks in that really investigative way that Chromebooks are really good for. You could also start utilizing them and looking to students being able to share and pass information in Google Apps, which come with Chromebooks, and that's the beauty of having Chromebooks. A lot of universities are moving towards that approach as well, so we would want to arm our students with that as they look forward to going to college and career readiness. The other piece of the puzzle, too, that I think we have to look to is that has to become really a priority is teachers. I mean, we are asking our teachers to teach in a different way. I mean, when technology comes into play, some of the way that you've done and practiced in the classroom has to be rethought, regrouped, redone, and you want to utilize the technology in a way that kids are getting the biggest bang for the buck. And one of the best ways to do that is to start to arm teachers with technology, because they have to have the opportunity to use it, play with it, take it home, see different usages, understand what it looks like in different settings so that they can apply it to classrooms. I mean, I can tell you that when I was in the classroom, I had a notepad everywhere, in my car, next to my bedside table, down in our dining room. I mean, because ideas come to you at all sorts of times when you're in your daily life for good classroom practice. So one of the things that we have to get pretty serious about really quickly too is teachers and technology, which is why that's in the numbers.
So if we're introducing things, I'm assuming at high school level, we're going to use more sophisticated software then. How do we expect to teach this? Is it going to be what? Integrated with the class?
Integrated with the class, yes. Yeah, the days of teaching technology as an aside, as an additional class, as something outside of our daily practice. I mean, they'll tell you, look, they're all using their phones as we speak. I mean, they are much more savvy than we'll ever be. So we have to take our lead from them. We have to get with the program and really connect to the way that they are communicating and that they are living day to day. That's our responsibility as educators, and part of the movement to that really has to be arming teachers and getting them ready.
We have things though, besides the funds we have right now. Obviously, at least a number of different spots that we need to work on, whether it's how we're arming the teachers, how it gets incorporated into the high school and middle school curriculum. We have to have some technology to do that, to get there. Sometimes it's a little bit of the cart before the horse, but that's how we started as the elementary, is by the elementary teachers actually helping each other, principals getting involved, and growing that system, and creating an iPad camp where we can teach the children and actually teach teachers, and maybe bring other teachers in and charge them. So it seems to me that while we chip away, as we should do, and again, I've been looking at it for 6 years, and 18 months for sure, I'm trying to figure out how to keep the momentum going so that we are addressing as many issues. We are in a financial situation right now that's very strong, wherein with our PI levy, and the $100,000 maybe at the tail end, but we just saved how many hundreds of thousands of dollars on the Westwood group? 800. Say that again. $800,000. So moving that $100,000 forward would not jeopardize our roofs, since our first roof came in $800,000. That's just my own personal opinion. Okay, if I do my math right, it's often off, but I think I can balance out.
But are you allowed to?
Yes.
You're allowed to spend that now?
Yes, because the technology, it was part of the process. It was earmarked towards the ed part, but we have those funds were earmarked for certain things, and we are allowed to spend.
The only thing I would add, we'll have a much better picture of that once the current roof bids come in.
so we'll have a much better idea of where we are.
So you could pull from the 800 that was saved, is what Mike is trying to say. You could pull from that savings.
On the front end, as opposed to waiting till the back end, you mean?
Well, could you use more than 100,000 which is allocated for? You can only use 100,000.
I wouldn't do that until we assure that we meet our commitment for roofs.
But right now, we had 100,000 allocated, not asking for more, but we had 100,000 allocated. There's another 700,000 in there for other projects that were part of the levy. And we have 800,000 we saved based on the bidding effort. And we keep that as a reserve in case some of these other ones are higher.
That's correct.
But we also have our PI, and the 1 mil of PI that we have generates roughly how much?
600,000.
Okay, and how much of that's for technology?
None.
Because the previous things that I saw showed 50,000. Did we change our mind?
Well, no, we eliminated that this year and put monies into the general fund for technology.
So that
We eliminated, we adjusted the PI to take that 50,000 out and just
Correct.
allocated the additional 50,000
Correct.
out of the general.
So since we have $600,000 coming in annually, do we have a new list as to what those are going to be targeted to be spent on?
For next year?
Yeah.
I do.
And for the next year and for the next year?
Well,
Because-
currently I have it for the 2015 year. I haven't projected them out for the 3 past that, but I will do that.
And then in our general fund, we have, Dan, depending on how we look at things, we have reserves well in excess of a few dollars, correct?
At this moment in time, we do. The 5-year forecast shows it declines over time to approximately $3 million for June of 2018.
So we're starting with roughly $9 million plus,
Correct.
and over time going to $3 million plus. And we're trying to figure out how to make our district, how to advertise our district to get people to move here and be a part of it, and without trying to take all the bites out of the apple to fix all of the problems of technology. I believe that we can very conservatively transfer some funds through resolution so that we can continue to chip away at some of our park needs, our high school, middle school, finish our second grade elementary so that they're better prepared for their testing, get our keyboards, and have something to go to the newspapers with about why WestG starts them right and graduates them for life.
Mike, can I ask you? And I agree with you. My kids are in elementary school. I love the presentation that she's given us and telling us that the need is very, very strong. I'm not saying we don't need second grade iPads. I'm not saying that we don't need second grade iPads. However, considering the dynamics of what has been happening over the last few months and decisions we still have to make, I would steer more on playing it safe, getting what they need to make sure that testing is secure, holding off and waiting to see what kind of decisions get made over the next 2 months before we start spending money we may or may not have. I don't know what this board is. We have a lot of decisions to make over the next 6 months. That's just my opinion.
Brother Secretary. Jack, on that point, I appreciate the concern for the finances. Nobody's been more concerned than I have for 7 years, taking a look at the numbers, trying to scrub the numbers, raising money for the school district, putting my own money into the school district. We have an obligation when we go to local people like the Kiwanis, and we say, this is how they learn. We need your money because this is how these children learn. And the amount of money we're at in the large scheme of things, to go from $76,000 to $200,000 in the scheme of $130,000 extra dollars is nothing financially when you have $9 million in the bank going down to $3 million. Even with some of the most dire of things that could happen, we would still have millions in the bank left over and be preparing our children for testing they have to do and start them off right, which will benefit them not for just this year, but it will benefit them for the rest of their education. Get them when they're young, the Coca-Cola figure. Get your customer when they're young. Get them enthusiastic, get them attentive, get them going. And so,
well, I don't disagree with that, but I feel like there's so much more information that's still coming from her that if we were to just get the things that we need to do to make sure that our kids are going to be able to test correctly, and then give her the ability to finish up this long-range technology plan. I'm sure that that's in that long-range plan. Eventually, it's going to get to it.
Well, when do you buy? If you
Well,
always put off.
right now, I'm not saying that we're putting off, Michael, but right now our number one concern is making sure that our kids are prepared for the test that's right around the corner. And it is absolutely important. I would love to have K1 and 2 1-to-1. But give her the benefit of the doubt to let her finish the long-range plan. We're talking about the needs of right this second. She's not saying that there's not a need for iPads in second grade. It's just not right at this second. It may be in 3 months or in fall of 14. I think we owe it to her to let her finish her research. We only have research that's for right now, and we're trying to incorporate long-range plan into this as well.
I'm with you, and I understand that. And as I said, the long-range plan was in the summer. I mean, I've been harping on this for 6 years, doing the best I can to move it along because it takes a long time sometimes to get things done in public entities. And the longer it takes, the less you actually benefit the educational experience of children. And I think at some point you just have to start saying, okay, let's keep moving. Nobody's saying spend $1 million to fix all the problems now, but we need to keep chipping away at it. And the last time we did it was back in April, I believe it was. I'm not so sure how much more was bought now, but we just need to keep chipping away at it, and this is just a chip.
Oh, I agree
Just
with
a
that.
chip.
She's chipped away a chunk at it too, I believe.
Nancy, well, how much did we spend in September? You were new in September. You didn't spend anything in September, did you?
I just spent a lot of time.
Okay. All right. With all due respect, that's not your fault, but that's what I'm trying to say. We haven't really spent anything lately to get going. That's not stuff that's done. That's what we're trying to figure out where's the bid and what's it from. We're trying to figure out what's that was back in the spring that we spent money, not, we're talking about now. We're talking about changes. Right now, we're talking about that.
That's what got us pushing my fingers. Elementary charts, pulled out on the fourth and third grade rather, and then they had charts in special ed.
In the spring, I understand that. So now we've gone through the fall, and now we're in another spring. And I'm just trying to say, it's been a while since we let, I'm fully aware of what we did last spring, because I was out raising the money to do it and get it going. But when we start the fall year, I'm going to order more, possibly, you know, we have the reviews and all. And as you go along, you get
Mike, just to clarify that, this fiscal year wasn't money spent in March and April. There was also money spent then, and then money spent this fiscal year. So there was, if my memory is correct, it was around $40,000 to $50,000 last spring, March, April, and then that rolled forward into $120-some thousand that was spent this year. This is after July.
Can I recommend something very small? Michael, obviously you're extremely passionate, and we all have to. We have a very long agenda.
I did ask you to recognize
Can we move this forward?
if I may be recognized. Okay, thank you. I'll pass this out. This is what Mr. Beers put together, which is our 5-year forecast, and with a 5-year forecast for various other schools, and it's big enough so you can read it. The reason this is relevant to technology is because that $9 million very quickly disappears. The $9 million is much talked about, and it seems like a large amount of money, but we have to do a number of things with that $9 million, and I would like to see our financial projections change to reflect what we're going to be doing in the future. Whatever we do with open enrollment means a gain or a loss of funds, because this board wants to change open enrollment. Whatever we do in terms of technology means a significant gain or loss. Whatever we do in terms of hiring an alumni person or a development person is also going to mean additional expenses on the part of us. And what we have to do, we're also, of course, going into negotiations with 2 unions. So that $9 million is projected right now based off of current assumptions. What we're in the process of doing is changing those assumptions significantly. In 5 years, we would have $3 million left. $3 million in 1 month of operating expenses. disappear if we make some of these changes we're talking about. So I do hope that we wait until we get a valid financial forecast because of the changes that we're talking about before we make these decisions. Because we leave this school board, remember we're talking about 5 years, $3 million, which is 10% of what our operating budget is expected to be roughly. So when you're talking about that, you're talking about not a lot of money. So I would like to see a financial forecast which is redone to reflect what we're actually planning for the next 5 years, since that's changed significantly since that was done.
But you can't be very difficult if you're going to have longer processes than open enrollment alternatives, right? And in the meantime, we can wait forever to get technology for the kids. How long would you like to postpone technology for the children that are in school?
I don't want to
right
postpone
now?
it 1 minute, Michael, but I think we put this district in financial jeopardy because we're chomping at the bit and responding to newspaper articles rather than what the kids need. The kids need a financially secure school system. Why not we can provide those things over the next 5 years, not in 6 months, 8 months, or 12 months, but 5 years from now. We want this system to be in financial shape. So I'm just saying, let's get our ducks in a row, make a financial projection that contains the things we're actually going to be doing because of the significant changes that we're planning, and then make decisions on significant expenses like this.
Don't you think that at minimum, though, like what she's saying is we have
Yes.
testing in the ball, at
Oh, yeah, we have to
minimum,
make that. We have to do that. Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
and that's where I'm at. I'm not saying I don't want any technology. I would love, we have to make sure our kids are ready for this test. We have to have the technology. That's something that's a no-brainer. Additional is where I'd like to.
Yeah, that's where I'm
Can I,
exactly.
where did we find out this testing was free? When did we find out we had to do this testing?
We have found out approximately 3 years ago.
Okay.
I would tell you this, that it is in constant flux. There is information I check daily at the website because it changes. We had no idea about the method or manner of giving it. That has recently come out in terms of the performance-based assessment lasting 3 sittings for ELA, 2 sittings for math. Having a secondary end-of-year assessment. Sorry, I'm using all the sharp terms. So a second end-of-year assessment that would be multiple days as well. That's new. I mean, that is relatively new within a school year's worth of time.
So my only point with it is just let me make my point that I'm sitting here listening. And I mean, my frustration as a new board member is it seems to me that we were underprepared for the last 3 years. If you're telling me we knew this 3 years ago and we're struggling to scrape the money together to do this now, if anything we accomplish out of this is we get a better technology plan. I understand the budget. We need to be budgeting. The kids at Hawken are graduating all on computers. And if we're going to wait 5 years for a graduating class to even get anywhere near there, then we are putting them behind. We need to use our money wisely. But we can't wait 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And 3 years ago, I think this probably should have been decided and funded or figured out. I wasn't here, so I can't say that. But there has to be a better, just hearing this, there has to be a better future plan. And we have to take the money into account. The planning, I'd like to see it happen. If we didn't get there, we're not there.
If I could,
what I would say is,
Shouldn't we listen to your expert? She's your expert. She's telling you. Why are you not listening to her?
We're listening.
She's telling you
We're just
what
gathering
she needs.
information.
To answer Dr. Phelps, last year we went through, the state provided a technology readiness tool that was targeted to help determine infrastructure needs and technology needs for the park assessments. We went through that process working with our administrative team, and in that time, it was very reasonable last year for us to say we were targeting a 2-week testing window, which is what we targeted. And in doing that, we had the reasonable infrastructure with the steps that we took. However, the performance-based assessments, 3 tests, all those things exponentially changed that number. I think it's also important to say, we still, where we are now and where we're trying to get to, is I sit and talk with other superintendents. They're talking about taking kids out of computer classes, out of yearbook classes, out of the business classes for 3 or 4 weeks at a time because they're not even prepared. So I understand coming in new, it looks like, and it does sound like, wow, what's been going on? But it's one of those, we've been pushing the ball down the road, and all of a sudden we found out we're going downhill a little bit, and we have to catch up to it. But we are further ahead than many of our neighboring districts. But it is a legitimate concern, as you said there today. Well, the testing, the